Not believe that we're already in November and it's the speedway down to Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and all that. But it's been a great year.
Yeah.
Really glad to have you guys here with me. The ones that are here live, awesome. Looking forward to connecting with you as we go through a couple of these examples. And for those of you who are listening on replay, I always love to have your participation too. And so this is our monthly mastermind where we go over deals. So the standard disclaimer, this is just my opinion only for educational and entertainment purposes only. Always consult, do your own due diligence, and consult your own professionals. So I thought, once in a while something comes up right, very spontaneously, and this was a phone call / email that I got from a gal. You can see she wrote me, I guess that was 2 days ago, owner finance dilemma. She got me on the phone and then followed up with this email. And I thought it would be great for us to work over together and see what you guys think. She's looking for a solution. She says, "Hi, Don. Thank you for speaking with me earlier today. Per our conversation, we relocated out of state from a home in Kansas City, Missouri, that we mortgaged for $105,000 at 5.5%, 30-year fixed. So they bought this home thinking that they were settling in, and then they got a job transfer. There are approximately 22 years left on our FHA mortgage. Acquaintances from church had an interest in renting our home for $900 a month and moved in when we left in 2012. They have lived there since that time and are now interested in purchasing our home from us utilizing owner financing. They have no money for a down payment and do not feel that they could obtain a mortgage on their own, as they let their previous house go back to the bank, so they have no credit. Except for a few instances, they have consistently paid their rent when due over the course of their occupancy. We are excited that they want to purchase the house, as we are not making anything on it. Basically, it's barely covering itself. There's no positive on it, but they don't have to go negative either so far, right? Until some big maintenance bill comes through. Let's see, we're not making and have had to continue maintenance and repairs. But on top of having no down payment, they are asking us to reduce the monthly payment from $900 down to $600 so that they can afford any issues that arise. So just without going any further, comments, questions? So this is a nice church friend who has no money that has been paying $900 rent. Now they want to own it for 0 down and drop the P&I down to $600. Any comments?
Yeah, if they have no money, they need to be praying more.
Yeah.
Oh, you are so funny.
There's such thing as like reputation equity or character equity, but I think this is just taking it a little too far. I mean, I think they probably got in without any security deposit on top of that, is my guess. But so they've been paying $900 rent, they're barely making it. Now they're going to have to go negative $300 to let these people own it. Does that at all make sense to anyone on the call?
No.
No. So I just said, for one thing, no, and for the second thing, no, and third, no. Anyhow, well, just because it's one thing if they want to do a favor for someone, but it's not exactly like, hey, we're going to hook these people up and take a loss on our end to benefit them. Some people want to do that, but this wasn't her situation. She just thought, God, we sure want to be done paying for maintenance on this thing. They don't like those surprise, repair bills, which I totally get. So she's kind of at the desperate stage where she's like, anything, can you please get me out? So anyway, we put a lot of money into repairs and updates, but it's not in the greatest of neighborhoods. We were naive. Okay, dumb, but here we are. To sell the home today, we'd probably only bring in $70,000, not including agent fees. We still owe $82,000. So they bought it for probably $110 or $115, and they have a $105 loan. They have paid it down to $82,000, but it's only worth $70,000 now, not including closing costs. So then now they live out of state, and they're very tempted by the easy route, but we have lost so much money on this property that we want to get out without going deeper. Is there a way out? Should we finance a down payment for them? We are truly looking for answers. So let me just pull up a calculator just because this is called calculator practice. So, but anyway, Ken, you know, what would you do?
I would tell them to do a short sale. Cooperate, do a short sale. You're going to get hit a little bit because you're underwater. The bank might only lose 15 or 20,000. You're going to get hit a little bit, but if you cooperate, a short sale is a lot better than a foreclosure. And you go on with your life. Don't give them any more money. You don't. Nothing's going to be out of your pocket. A short sale is going to just happen at some point, and somebody's going to pick up a little bit better piece of property for a little bit less than what it's worth, which is okay on a short sale. And life goes on. And don't keep on financing a church friend, so to speak, and get yourself in more problems.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is just if they had a down payment, where it's different, right?
Yeah,
But really, why give a it's already going negative for them. You can see I plugged in their original loan just to see what their P&I, principal and
yeah,
interest is. So PV is 105. Here I put in the interest rate, 360. So that's 30 years, and then it's fully amortizing. So there's no balloon. The future value is zero. We calculate for the payment. It's almost 600, and then they have taxes, insurance on top of that. So if they're getting, you know, what's average taxes and insurance, like 125 bucks, do you think?
yeah. Somewhere in that area there too. And you have to understand too, Tom, that if somebody anywhere in the United States, it doesn't matter where, if they cannot afford or only afford $600 a month for one house, for a complete house, something is not right in that family. They're not doing something right. That is like as dirt cheap as you can get. If they're having trouble doing that or want to go from 900 to 600, that's a red flag as well. That's just dirt cheap rent.
Right, and I don't blame them for asking. You never know until you ask, right? There's nothing wrong with them asking,
No, not at all.
because I'm sure they don't understand the underlying financing probably at all, right? They're just going, hey, they move out of state, they don't want to pay for anything. Let's see what kind of deal we can work. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So but yeah, if I'm really assuming they can afford more, that they're just trying to, But you can see if PITI is 721 and she gets in 900 a month in rent, she has 178 big fat cushion for when the water heater goes out, or those things need to be repaired. Heaven forbid something. I guess they did a lot of updating so that there's not a lot of repairs at this point, but at some point there will be. So basically, it's just barely squeaking by. And if she's only getting in 600 a month, she still it still washes, but um, but the no down payment's a problem because if they decide they can't afford even 600 a month and they default, now she's got to pay legal fees to get them out, and they can drag that out. I don't actually know how long someone can drag out a Kansas City foreclosure. Anyone have intimate knowledge of that on the
Well,
call?
I don't know if it's for judicial or non-judicial. I think it's
It's
yeah, I think
non-judicial. I know that part. It is.
so. It should
Yeah.
be within the 6 month period.
Does that sound right to you, Kioka? About 6 months?
Yes.
So they
Yeah,
could
I don't
actually.
know the time frame, but I know that it's not judicial and it takes less than a year.
Yeah, so non-judicial can go anywhere from I think Texas in 45 days to some
Yeah.
a year, but with an average like California, I think it can take us 6 months really. Realistically, more like 7 or 8 to get someone fully.
Yeah, I think California is at the height, even though it's non-judicial, it's still at the height.
Takes longer than
So,
most. So anyway,
yeah.
so now they have more potential headaches down the road. Instead of easing their risk, they're adding to it, in my opinion. Because this family is trying to get too good of a deal, and which means to me, if they have no down payment, then they're not used to saving money on a monthly basis. And when you own a property, there's these things that come up. So you have to have some, excess reserves that you can call on when you need it, or else what'll happen is they'll say, hey, we had to fix something at the house. Can we skip this month's mortgage payment? I can guarantee you that's coming in this kind
Yes.
of scenario.
Yes.
I mean, it happens to me. I sell, someone who says, well, I would make my mortgage payment, but I had to fix this other thing. And I go, well, you realize I'm not like a property manager, I'm the bank, right? Yeah, but like I just don't have the money. I had to decide, do I, and I go, okay, I'm throwing it at the on the back of the loan, right? So anyway, and sometimes that's not the answer, but in this case it was. But anyway, so I would say don't put them on title. I mean, they're lucky to be getting it as a 900 a month rental. Sounds like a very fair deal to me already. So my thing though, let's say what would work, because if they could do a lease option, right? They could do a lease option for these people, and if they could afford, let's say, if the property value is 70, it's totally fair all day long to add it. Let's say a 10% premium for for doing the financing. So let's just call it 80, right? So let's just call it 80. They're going to sell it for 80,000, and if they could at least put, I don't know, a lot of times you can't, in some of these neighborhoods, getting 5,000 is about the best you're going to do. 10% would be awesome, 8,000, but just realistically, from some of the other people I know working in that market, 5,000 is about all people tend to be able to put down. So if they put 5,000 down, 5,000 divided by 80,000, that would be a 6% down payment. Basically that's
Yeah.
FHA financing. It's not great. It should be 10% or more ideally. But just saying,
Yeah.
if she
Yeah.
says, "Hey, I really want to give them a deal," they are church people, and I really hate to say it, but sometimes those are the worst deals because church people can tend to take advantage of the good nature of other church people, and there's a little bit of spiritual abuse I think that happens in that
And it's
situation. But
emotional.
right,
It's
right.
also emotional.
Right. Okay, but it can be a great thing. I'm not saying it's bad, and I think it's a beautiful thing for one person to help another person. But let's
Donna,
say that
Are you just assuming that, that this person has paid the loan in full, the lady from Missouri, because they have a mortgage on it at 105,000, or it used to have a mortgage
or
on it.
oh, that's right. Well, I just want to see what would happen here
Okay.
if it was, and then I want to go back and say what would the numbers work if we did it just to take it subject to the loan. But in a way, I wouldn't want Jim to take it subject to. I would want them to wrap it, because then they could take possession of the property if there was a default, because their name is still on that loan, right? So you want them to have a way to take possession. So if they had and 9% is a really fair in my mind. This is a fair private money rate. You don't have to
I
qualify for
think
bank
so.
financing. And I'm just going to throw in. I just wonder what 20 years would be. That's still a really fair payment, right? 20
Yes.
year AM. What about 180? I'd really, if they can afford, if it really rents for 900, I think all day long we can write them at a 15-year AM. And that way it's really covering itself, right? Because if actually they'd cash flow a little bit, because what was her payment? 600, right? So if the buyer is paying their own taxes and insurance and all the maintenance, then the principal and interest that she's getting is 760, and she only owes just shy of 600, so she get $160 passive income with. But to me, that's when someone will put skin in the game. So you can either work these numbers as a lease option, you can throw it in a land trust and sell the beneficial interest in the trust on an installment basis, or you could do just straight seller financing and do a wraparound mortgage where in this case, then we'd have to make it a 82,000 mortgage. So let's match. If we matched the underlying financing at 82, let's see what interest rate it would happen. I wonder how many years are left. Did they say 22? 22 times 12. There's 264 months left. I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering. That'd be, oops, someone's calling me. All right, so if they paid this amount, there'd be positive cash flow, and they would pay longer. So I wonder if, so if we just worked it as, let's just say 700. I don't know. I'm just like playing with these numbers of what would actually work if they wanted it just covered over the full term. You can make it. I mean, they can amortize it more quickly, but there again, the buyers, if they're going to put 5,000 down or 10,000 down,
They don't have
they,
money.
yeah, these people don't have money, but someone who does have money, this actually would work really well for, right? Who wouldn't pay for a property that's worth 70? Who wouldn't pay a little bit more if they get insta financing, attached to it? It makes sense all day long. So someone
Yes.
who is maybe just borderline needs another year to qualify for FHA, this is a great short-term thing, or even long-term. You can see that if they want to, they can pay it down, but you've got to have third party in there, a servicer there, because if they decide to pay more, like 1 month they want to say, or they want to amortize this more quickly or whatever, you want to know that the extra principal is going down to pay the existing bank loan before the sellers get, extra money. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like what if these people decide to pay $1,000 a month instead, just to pay it down? Then they'll be done paying for their loan in just over 10 years. But so you want to make sure that the underlying bank loan is also retired in that same time frame. So
Hmm.
anyway, that's just some of my thoughts where the numbers can make sense, but I think the short sale idea is a perfectly good option too. Just depends on, how sensitive they are to, issues with their credit, but, you can recover from that stuff without too much trouble. And so I hope she was going to be on the call with us tonight, but then she had to work late tonight. But that would have been fun to be able to just talk with her.
Yeah.
And but she and I know and I want to talk about this more if anyone has something to say, but just also, Colleen, are you on the line?
Shoot. Yes. Darn.
Yeah, can you hear me, Colleen?
Yes,
Yeah, anyway, she wanted me to go over a partial purchase, so just so I know that you guys know that that's sort of on the line. Is there any other topics that anyone has that we should work into our hour together besides just following up on this? How about an investor? Would anyone on the call, would you just take this property subject to if you had the chance? If she said, "Hey, I trust you, like Dawn, I'll give it to you without a down payment because I trust you," or something. Do you think I should just take this over? What do you think? Would
What is
one
the
of you do
property
it?
worth? What is the property worth? 70?
70,000. Because I told
70.
her, yeah, she said the cash as is value is 70,000. That it's dropped 30%, 25%, 30%. But it's not as good as I would want. I mean, this is great, right? But isn't that 3% and 4% long-term financing so sweet? It's 5.5. It's not 3.5 or 4.5. But it'll cover itself. So I told her, and someone's got some noise in the background. If you can mute yourself if there's a lot of noise in the background, that would be great. But anyway, I said maybe I'll buy it if you want to give it to me, and you just trust me because of for whatever reason, you know, you
Oh my
know,
God.
yeah, most people, it's so funny that I do have people, like I was just meeting with the seller today, and there's just something about you. We just know we can trust you. And, basically they just brought me in on their very intimate, family details. And it's like, I just met them. I just barely met them, you know? And it's a beautiful thing when you just have those connections with people and they read you and you read them. And I really love that. But anyway, so I might, if she just wants to let me take this subject too, I might just, say I can, if you don't want to do the hassle of finding a buyer who can put 5 or 10 down, I can do that. I'm willing to do that, right? Over time, if they could amortize it quickly and then, or I don't know, just let the rents pay it down for the next 22 years. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you take this deal if it just got handed to you?
I think you need to look at a couple of things. One thing you would need to do an appraisal to find out really what the value is, or BPO. That's cheap.
Yeah,
BPO.
yeah. Mhm.
And then the second thing you need to do is have somebody go over there and check out the systems. I mean, is the roof going to be up in a year? Is the heating and air
Yeah.
conditioning going to be through? So all of those repairs. Okay, so you got a property, you didn't pay anything for it. You're making 7 or 8% on your money, but then a major repair comes up, and or these people move out, or somehow don't end up paying the rent. So you have an asset that was an asset, but now it's no longer an asset because there's so many things that can happen.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's perfect because you want to know like what are my likely big expenses. They said they've put a lot of money into repairs and updates, so theoretically, I would assume that the bones, are pretty strong on it for the while. But I think I would keep it. I would turn it around as an owner finance deal.
Hmm.
If she gave this to me and I decided to do it, I would wrap it. So I take whatever their loan amount is. I would have her wrap the existing mortgage. Of course, I know that there's a risk that that loan could get called, but I'd be willing to take that risk. And so then I could turn it around with owner financing and get a family in there that, actually has prepared themselves financially for ownership with a decent down payment.
If
And then,
that lady who's in there right now, or the family wanted to keep it at $600 a month, would you let them rent it for 600?
no, no, no. If they want to stay as a renter until I think about what I'm doing, I would, no way. I mean, heck no.
What would you
But keep
charge?
it.
Pardon?
What would you charge them a month for rent, knowing that they're church-going people, Don?
Well, for
Oh
church-going
God.
people, for church-going people, I would charge a $50 premium, so probably 950.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm really not being. I have a lot of respect for. I grew up in a very religious culture myself, but and it's just if you're a little too blind, you can get taken advantage of. In fact, I have note that I bought that because the preacher, they're in the same religious community, and so the preacher, even though the guy didn't pay for 6 years, he never foreclosed on him because it was like would be against what their religion says they can do or something like that. So he just sold the note at a discount. And but it's like, oh, okay, I know you're not going to foreclose on me because we're church people, and so I don't have to pay you on the mortgage. So what are you going to do? God's going to strike
But
you.
keep in mind, she said this is not a great neighborhood at all.
Right, but interesting that it's still worth 70,000 because in the crappy
Yeah, very.
neighborhoods, I mean that's more like 40 or 50 if you're lucky. So it's
Yeah.
not as bad as, as some. This must be average because I know guys working in that general neighborhood that are selling properties in the 70 to 100 range. But
But
anyway,
don't forget too, there's an $82,000 loan on that property too.
yep.
So you'd have to sell it for like a 90 to 100 in order for you to really make out on this deal.
Yeah, I mean, I would just see what I could get. I would have to go, what the market will bear. So anyway, great things to think about. And if you think of anything more, let's talk about it at the end, or if you can text or chat to Axel, he can bring it up. So, should the owner finance a down payment for the renters? What do you say, guys?
No.
No. That's not what
No.
seller financing means. That the seller gives you all your money. Okay. And is owner financing a viable option for selling the property? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it is. Like if the market will bear, selling at between 82 and 100 with $5,000 to $10,000 down, I would say it might be worth taking a shot at it if they're really really sensitive to the idea of a short sale. But good point. Anything else before we move on? Yeah, so basically make it a
Yeah.
lease
Okay.
option where they're and you're still gonna be have to do Dodd-Frank compliant sort of numbers here. But and if they're still even if they have a lease option, if a portion of their monthly payment is going toward their down payment that they're building equity, you're even if they default, you'll and they're even though it's a lease with an option to buy, you'll still probably have to foreclose on them. Just a heads up. If they decide to, push back, they'll say, "Hey, we have an equitable position." But yeah, if they could afford, let's say, $1,000 a month, then you could say, "Hey, you're gonna $100 a month is gonna go toward your strike price or something like that, as a sort of structured down payment." That's perfectly wonderful option as well. Or tell them, "Hey, you're gonna pay 900, but you're now you're going to cover taxes and insurance." So that what is that? Another 125 a month. That's another way to do it. But there again, if you do that and they default, you'll still be in the position of probably having to foreclose instead of evict because they can claim equitable interest. Does that seem right on to everybody out there?
Question, do you have to foreclose on a lease option?
If they have built up enough equity and they want to fight you, yeah, probably. But the cleanest way, and I'm not an expert in lease options, but the thing that I have in my head is that the cleanest way to do is make sure that your option agreement is a completely separate instrument and agreement separate from the lease. So when you make, don't make it a lease option, it's one agreement. Have an option agreement and then have a lease agreement. Two separate things. Because when you say I'm going to have you, I'm going to kick you back a portion of your rent towards they're building equitable position. So if they default and the courts say, yeah, you've built up, 5 years of equity here, they will make you probably foreclose instead of just get away with an eviction. That's just
The best thing, Don, would be to try to get a down payment somehow, some way, or walk away from it. Because as you well know, we've got even notes that people are paying on, and then all of a sudden they stop paying. God only knows why they do. So at least if somebody's got skin in the game, like we say, number one, it's nice to know that they've got a little bit of money saved up. That's a good thing. That's a good trait. And number two, if they get that down payment, then they'll want to start making maybe some repairs and some maintenance around the house and stuff. And also, rather than a lease option, do a land contract where you're still technically the owner until they're the owner. Then you can foreclose on them or do whatever you need to do because they're not technically the owner of the house. You are.
Right. Well, so lease option is also kind of that same idea as a land contract where you stay on title until they exercise their option or finish paying you off. But even with a contract for deed, Ken, I mean, if they built up enough equity, you're going to have to foreclose. You can't just evict them.
Right.
But I thought even with a land contract, it was a sort of a thing where you go, once they default, you go into court like, here, judge, they defaulted. And it's a simple thing. It's not a long and drawn out process, such as a foreclosure. I thought you just go into court and say they defaulted.
Well, I think what I've heard is that sometimes that works, but if they want to fight it, then it's not hard for a judge to say, they have equitable position, so you're going to have to foreclose. So just a heads up. Doesn't always happen, but in how it works out,
could.
Yeah, it could, right? Because they're building equity in the property. And so, well, anyway, that was a good review of that deal. Okay, now Colleen, where you have a mic?
Yes, hi, I'm here, Don.
Hi, great. So you had asked me about partials. So let's talk about partials. What aspect, you said you'd like to understand them a little bit better. Is there a certain thing that we can go over, like a specific situation that we can crunch real numbers because it's easier to learn that way?
Oh, I didn't send you any specific numbers
No.
or amortization tables. It just confuses me when the subject is, okay, you can take this note and you can sell part of it, and then you can sell part of it and part of it, and and just the proceeds are like enormous. The profits are enormous, and I just don't. I guess I just can't wrap my head around how exactly the numbers work to enable you to do that, to sell a portion of a note instead of an entire note.
All right, so this is like talking about like if you own a whole note, or like say you carried back a property on you that you, right? Carried back paper on one of these properties that you've been trying to sell, right?
Right.
I would be interested in hearing the same thing because I was about to buy a note and I told the guy, I will buy this note, but I know off top I wouldn't want to keep it. I would only buy it because the UPB is so low. I mean, the UPB was high, but the percentage was so low. It was like at 50% of the UPB. So I would only buy it just to flip it.
Do you mean BPO or like
no, UPB, unpaid balance, the unpaid balance, UPB.
Um,
It was high, but to buy it, my purchase would be at 50% of the UPB. The UPB was like 100 and something, and I mean like 160 or 80 something, and I was only paying like 70,000 for it. But it was a good loan. But I told him I would be only interested. It was in Florida, so I wouldn't want to hold it, but I would be only interested in flipping it. And he was like, "Well, I can if that's what you wanted to do. I can sell Porsches for you, and I can do that all day." And I don't really understand it because I was like, "Okay." He was like, "I can sell 180 payments." So I was thinking, so wait, I have to wait till 180 payments are received and then sell the other portion. I mean, I didn't really understand it, so I would like to hear this conversation as well.
okay. Well, great. So I'm going to Colleen, why don't you talk about your, how do I make this bigger? Why don't you talk about your the one property you said you're having trouble selling in Yucca, and then let's pretend like you did sell it,
Oh,
and then you know what I'm saying. So
oh, sure.
tell the group about that property that you're having trouble with, and let's see what we all come
Oh,
up with.
shall I tell the truth or shall I pretend that I sold it?
No, tell the truth now, and then we'll just
Okay.
we'll create a vision for you of how the numbers could work, so you can attach to it.
Okay. It's an investment property that my husband and I own in our own rental portfolio, and it's been listed for about 9 months. Started out at 232. Um, Now it's down to 181. I basically took over the listing myself. It expired with the firm that I hired, so since I'm a broker, I just let it, go for
Expire.
90 days, let it expire, waited 90 days so that you don't have that cumulative days on the market, so it doesn't look like tainted, or it doesn't look, there's no stigma attached to it, so that when you list it, it's a fresh listing.
Right.
And so we relisted it in late August at like, I think 207, and I brought it down to 199, 191, 187, 181. And I've been advertising it like crazy on Facebook, FSBO.com, ForSaleByOwner.com, WhoNeedsTheBank.com. I have
Well, let's
200
pull it up. Let's pull it up right. Do you mind? Let's just pull it. Let's look at it. You want to look at it?
oh, go
Where,
ahead.
where am I going to find it? Let's look at it right now.
Well, probably Zillow would be the quickest.
Okay, so what's the address?
56791 Cassia Drive, Cassia Drive in Yucca Valley, California.
Okay, this is it right here, right?
Right.
In High Desert.
hmm
Okay. Can everyone see that okay?
And this is what
Yes.
kills me. Zillow, they're estimated that as that's 192, and yet it's listed at 181. And it's not that there's been no interest. I have a spreadsheet because I'm extremely organized, and every single person who's contacted me from Craigslist or Facebook, I've made a huge spreadsheet with their name, phone number, email address. I've paid people to show it many, many times. Lots of people are interested. They don't have two nickels to rub together. They see the advertisement for seller financing, and then when it says, you can pay a mortgage that's less than a rental payment, and then they think the two go together. Well, here's my $500. Can you sign the deed over, and I'm ready to take the property over with seller financing? And it's like, okay,
They
you
don't get
just
the
have,
deep
and then
skin.
I educate them. Okay, you understand. There's like 6 different ways to sell the property. I'm telling them, I said USDA is the best way because you can, you borrow 100%. It's in a rural area. It's totally fenced. It's zoned for horses. Um,
You own this free and clear, Colleen?
yes, we do. Yes.
What is the projected rent for this property?
The last tenant we had, we were getting 1,200. That's pretty reasonable.
Hmm. And how long have you owned the property?
2004.
Mhm. And when was the last renter? It's obviously vacant now. When was the last renter in there?
We evicted them last December because when we put it on the market, they were not cooperative with any of the showings. That was the first mistake. That was a really big mistake to put it on the market with tenants already in there. So
Hmm.
I don't think it was a mistake. You just have to be willing to show it.
what's that? Oh, you mean you
You
think
have to
it's a
have willing
mistake
tenants to
asking
show
the
it.
tenant to show
I
it?
say I don't. No, I didn't think it was a mistake. You just have to have a willing tenant
Oh,
to
oh,
be comfortable with the idea of showing it.
yeah, they were yeah, not nice people at all. So it was really, really awful.
Well,
Yeah.
that's no fun. Did they damage it on the way out too?
Um, not, it just they just left a lot of trash. It was interesting. You know, five brand new TV boxes. Oh, they couldn't pay their rent, but no, they got five brand new. It was just a lot of trash in the house. They didn't really do anything major.
Now,
So
is that front yard there? No grass for a reason there? It's just
that's just the way the high desert is. Very, very typical landscaping. Nobody has grass in the high desert. No one.
and what's the job market out there? What's the population of that city?
It's about 22,000. It's the biggest employers are 29 Palms Marine Corps Base, which is two towns over. It's a huge, huge military base. Then there's a big Walmart and a big Home Depot in the town. Um, you know,
Have you done advertising at that military base?
we've done like advertising on the Facebook groups in the military base.
Mhm.
And it's not that, like I said, it's not that we're not getting interest. I mean, I must field, 3 to 5 calls a day, but we're not getting qualified applicants. And it's been shown by realtors, I would say maybe 8 showings since August. And I follow up diligently with every single one. It wasn't what they were looking for. They liked another property better. They didn't like the neighborhood. They didn't think it flowed. They didn't like the floor plan. The
Mhm.
bedrooms are too small. Stuff that I can't do anything about. I mean,
If you sold it for, let's just say 30 or 40,000 less, are you going to make a profit?
well, we bought it for 173, so we won't make a profit selling it at this price.
Okay.
So I don't care at this point. I just want to get out of it. I'm sick of the hassle. I'm sick of, I'm sick of paying the electric bill. I'm sick of paying, people to show it because we live super far away. So it's not feasible for me to, when someone wants to see it, it's not like I can just drive down there and open the door.
But
So
you're okay as the note holder, though, correct?
yes, yes, to get rid of it, yes, yes. My husband is not crazy about that idea at all. He's very much against it, but I think it's just he just wants to cut all ties. I'm, just get it sold. I'm all about just getting it off our backs. So
Mhm. Do you have to worry anything about vandalism if it's vacant like that?
we did have a break-in April, and so I had to spend $2,500 getting a huge beefed up security system with video cameras in the front and back, an alarm system inside, so it's
Are you
just like,
are you able to have insurance on that building?
yeah, yeah,
Because a lot of times, if the insurance company knows that it's vacant, they're not real happy about insuring it.
right.
Yeah, I think I have Colleen, do you have like an individual policy? I know that I can add on, like, Ken, you probably have a blanket policy, don't you? Like one of those things where you just say, add this property, delete this property, because
Yeah.
it was for forced place, and I can
Right.
just add them on. They don't care if it's vacant, but certain things won't be covered,
Right,
or the
right,
or the premium will be a lot higher, right?
right, yeah. Like if it got broken into now, we would be just toast because it wouldn't be covered because it's been vacant for more than
What
90
about
days.
such I mean, you might not make money on it, but you don't owe anything on the property. What about cutting the price down to a point where it would be just super attractive for either somebody to buy it and or you just do a note on it at that magical price? Maybe it's $155,000. I don't know.
But my point is, we're taking all the risk with the note, you should get much more than market value if you're going to do that.
Well, no,
If I'm going to cut it,
if you do the note,
I
I
want
agree.
the cash.
Yeah, if you do the note, I agree. You should get more than that. But right now, you're having trouble even at the 181. So we don't know really what the value is. We're assuming it might be 181. But if you're not selling it, then that's probably not the value.
You know, it's interesting.
Have you ever had an appraisal done?
No, have not had that done. But you know what, John, I did, you know, take your advice and, you know, advertising very heavily. This is a great home for two families, you know, and
Right, right. I can't believe you got nothing.
ton of people calling me, you know, let's do grandma and grandpa and son and daughter, and just, you
Right.
know, for one reason or another, you know, I've spent, well, maybe not hundreds of hours, but many, many, many hours coaching these people. Okay, this is what you need. Here's a, you know, here's a loan officer if you want to call him, or you can use your own, and let's get you pre-qualified, and, you know, let's see which loan is best for you, and, you know, just the, like I said, we've had plenty of interest, but no one is qualified. That's the whole problem. No one, not a single person has looked at it.
They can't get a bank loan and they have no down payment.
Correct. Yeah, you got it in a nutshell.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I guess you know from what the online thing says, you're not priced badly. Redfin
I
is the
know.
low. Yeah, Redfin's the lowest at 179. Zillow says 190 something, and ePraiser
I
even
know.
said 202.
I mean,
But
it's turnkey.
but
Spent
yeah, so the
$20,000
problem
fixing
is
it.
it's not selling. So it's just strange, and maybe it's just been hanging around the market too long. So I don't know. Whatever the or you need to go have a what's those feng shui people? I don't know. There you could go send a shaman over there. Maybe there's some like energetic connection that's keeping this property from leaving you. Like you haven't like parted ways yet, you know? There's some spiritual connection.
Dawn, you're
Yeah.
too funny.
Well,
One of my friends said we should get it staged. I'm like, you know, this is not a high-end property. I'm not going to pay for staging for a vacant property that someone can then break in and steal all the furniture and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
well, I guess you have to just decide what's my walkaway price. So at what like if right now if the few of us that are on the call said, you know, we'll throw out what you would take and we would go yes or no. I mean, you know, like if you were really in the what you are, a group of investors right now who are in it for cash flow,
mhm,
what would you sell it for? If you could walk away from this trouble and quit, and how much is your time worth? Hundreds of hours, you
mhm,
know, and then all the advertising. So you're going deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're
mhm.
frustrated. That's a lot of energy that would be, you know, if you could direct all that energy into other ventures, you would make so much more money than like, you know, dealing with this flailing, you know, this hanging chad, this thing that just kind of won't go away, you know,
Yeah.
for you. So, what's that price? Have you and your husband said, you know, if we had another investor that would give us this, boom, we'd sell it today. Or if we, you know, if we got at least this much down, we'd carry at a price that would make it cash flow. You know, like if you say, so what's the minimum down payment you'd take, and what's the
20%.
minimum? 20% is minimum down, and then would terms
Oh,
would you do would you do 0% financing if you got 20% down?
I mean,
If you got
excuse
the
me.
price,
No, my God, no.
Like, why would you say 20% when you can't even find people with anything to put down? 20% is kind of high for owner financing.
Right. Well, that's why when people call me about owner financing, I try to talk them out of it. I said, do you realize that owner financing is the most, that requires the most, you know, down payment? And I give them a little education. I said, go with a USDA loan. It's less than $1,000, and most of them have never heard of it. So I explain what it is. You know, you borrow 100% of the acquisition cost, 100% of the closing cost. I give them his number. I tell them these are the financial documents that he needs. But
so you're working super hard because that's why it's great to have realtors who are buyers because then they pre-qualify their buyers before they
exactly.
clatter them
Yeah.
around. But the
Yeah.
ones that are qualified aren't interested in this house at this price. So if you really just want to get cashed out, then you just gotta you gotta, instead of like just a little teeny weeny 2% drop or something, I would say just get the pedal to the metal and get rid of this thing.
Mhm.
I mean, that would just be me. Like, make a big statement, you
Mhm.
know, drop it down to, drop it down, I don't know, 20,
I
30,000, see
agree.
what happens. Because,
Well,
150 sounds like a good number. Mhm.
we have three investors coming to see it on Saturday, so maybe one of them will pull the trigger. We'll see.
yeah, and for an investor, I think, especially if they can get fine, if it's, you have to just decide what's most important. Is price the most important thing? Is cash in our hand now? You're going to either get all cash at a lower price than what you got it listed probably, or you're going to get at least 20% down. If you're selling to an investor, that's great. But what if they want
Mhm.
to say, hey, 160 purchase price, they'll put down 20%, they'll put down 32,000, but let me get then you got to go, but then they're going to want good terms too, because they're going to want to cash flow it. And are you going to be okay with that? If you're like, hey, 7% or nothing, uh, you know, I don't know, 180 months, they have to pay. Now that's not going to cash flow for them even after 20% down. So they may, if they need a write off, maybe they would do it.
Mhm.
I don't know, but likely they're going to want something like this, maybe even longer.
Mhm.
That way they cash flow it,
Mhm.
right? It still more than covers itself as a rental.
This one here, Don, I think because of the fact that you don't have much of a rental pool, I think taking a hit and moving on with your life is going to be the easiest thing. It's going to be good for an investor coming in. I'd say probably maybe 150 is the number that somebody wants to buy that from you and want it for themselves, or for whatever reason, maybe even 150 is the number. Maybe it's lower than that. But this way here, I don't know how much you're paying every single month to keep this property, but the use of your money and not investing it and making another interest somewhere else, all those costs coming in to play, you know, you got to look at a number that you're not necessarily comfortable with, but maybe it has to be sold for 150 or less.
Or if someone will say, hey, I'll give you 175, take 25,000, we'll give you the 20%. What would that be? 35,000, 175, so then, wow, that looks like pretty close to your asking price, right? But there again,
Mhm.
there's where I'm coming in with, what if they ask for 0% financing, but you got your price, and what if they'll pay you, 800 a month, or even 1,000 a month? You can see in less than 15 years, maybe they'll, because of the 0%. And don't
Mhm.
get hung up with, hell no, that isn't what should happen. That's not going to help you. But this still could work for you, right? If it gets you 25,000 more, and someone will do this, why the heck not? In 10, 13, 11 years, you'll have all your money and you got the 175. So if the number you sell it for is the thing you're stuck on, consider this. Consider, like,
Mhm.
amazing term negative, but they don't care because they're amortizing so quickly. They're building equity so quickly. Even if they're going negative,
Right.
they won't
Right.
care probably, right? Or just say, yeah, no, I'm not stuck on the price. I'd rather have all my money now. Take your 150, whatever it is. But technically, if someone can get this to, bring in 1,300 a month, 1%, if that's 1% of value, I mean, 130, and you can rent this thing for 1,300 bucks, that'd be great. But like you said, and Ken's pointed out, there's not a huge rental pool there, or I would say a predominance of like really high paying jobs probably, or the military guys are cycled in and out, and so this might take two families, but there's room, right? 6 rooms, you said.
Right. Well, also what I'm going to point out to the investors when we first bought it is, with those 6 bedrooms, if you could rent out like each room to like 6 different Marines and charge them each like $300 or $400, you could make a lot more money than renting it out to a family. It's going to be much harder from a property management standpoint to do that, but that would, that was
Yeah,
a
I think that's a
kind of
great
thinking
idea.
outside the
Just,
box that I thought.
yeah, but that's like a half-hour drive over to
It is, yeah,
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 so it's not especially convenient for the Marines.
yeah, it's not super far though, because a lot of the kids, Yucca Valley schools,
They go to the school systems.
the
Okay.
base schools aren't that great. But you know what the problem is? I'm being very stubborn because I'm thinking, oh my God, I spent $173 on this freaking house. We
Exactly.
spent $25,000, repairing all the crap that previous tenants did. I'll be damned if I'm going to lose money. And that's what's getting in my way. I'm being really, really stubborn. I'm just over that.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to take those lumps, right? It's really and that's why people when stocks are down they don't sell, hopefully, because
Yeah, I
as long as you
don't.
don't, as long as you don't realize pretend like it's a
Yeah,
loss, right?
that is so true. I do it all the time.
Yeah, but I've never lost money on a real estate deal before, and I'm so
Right.
just, I'm just
I
being
know it really
stubborn.
grates against you, and probably a part of that is a self-judgment, sort of flogging yourself, like, how did I get in this situation, or
Right.
why
Why did
I
I ever.
right. So as long as you're busy flogging yourself and making it personal, it's going to be tough to let go. But if you can just go, c'est la vie, win some, you lose some. But just think about how much that and this place is draining you big time because
Oh
you've
yeah,
been dealing with this for a long, long time. And it's like, that is so taxing
yeah.
on a
It's just
person's
such a
energy
pain.
level. Your next awesome deal when you're still beating yourself up for,
Hey, Don,
yeah, go ahead.
speaking of taxing, and no pun intended, but you should talk to your CPA about this as well, because now would be an opportunity if selling it. Let's just say you sold it for 150, and you put some repairs in it, whatever. Let's just say you have a $30,000 loss. Well, if you have a $30,000 loss, although keep in mind you depreciated the property if you did rent it, and that's going to be recapture and stuff. But
Yeah, you
let's
have to recapture all
just
that.
say you have a $25,000 or $30,000 loss. That might be the time to do potentially a Roth conversion, and instead of losing $30,000, you'd be basically maybe 30, 40, 50, $60,000 to a Roth IRA rather than a conventional IRA. And then instead of, again, looking at it as that you're losing money, at this point here, you're now going to maybe break even because you looked at a tax consequence that might help you if you do some tax planning.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I mean, look for the gift. What could how can you make lemonade out of these lemons that are here?
Right.
If you
And
look for it, you will find it.
yeah, well, yeah, we actually probably need to do that because I did a flip in Vegas in July that I made a fortune on. So the tax man's going to be, clawing at our door for a portion of that money. So this might be a good strategy to just.
Yeah, offset your ordinary income. I mean, that's a
Right.
great good thing to bring up, Ken. Thanks again. Yeah, but it's just like, you need to have a little burial. You need to like have a funeral for your perfect picture idea of how this worked because the loss of that is a real and tangible thing that you feel in your gut. And so I would do it. I'm crazy enough for you just set up a little, uh, you know, set up a little ceremony for yourself. Here's the picture. Here's my perfect idea. That was really neat, and it didn't happen. And then burn it. This is what I wanted. And then I think if you will do that, that energetic shift will come in handy for you
Okay.
on a weekend where you got three people coming to look, and you're probably going to get one or two offers. So be ready emotionally and mentally to consider anything and everything. And then,
Okay.
to me, that's what I would do.
I
Any
hope I'll
other?
be talking to you next week on saying, Don, which one of these should I take?
Yeah, yeah, do keep me posted. I like hearing how the stories work out. But hey, Axel, we're at the end of the hour. Anything else that I forgot to say that we should say right now?
I thought she had, I thought she had questions about partials.
Oh
Oh,
shoot.
yeah.
All right. All right. Okay. I forgot.
It's,
Okay. So, all right. So let's pretend like you did a note. Let's see. Let's pretend you get an offer for 160. They put 32 down.
At 9%.
That's probably not going
Oh
to happen for
God.
this investor.
I
Let it
know.
go.
Hey, I can dream.
Okay, you can dream. There's not, just like those other people. It's not bad that they're asking, but just be prepared not. That's owner carry type price. I don't know. Just depends on price point and the local market. But let's just say you're not going to get 9. I can't put it in. Okay, let's just put 7. Okay, let's just that to me for an investor giving you closer to your price. I don't know. I would guess that we're going to cap out here at something like this. So let's just pretend. I could be wrong.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
7 would be grand.
Okay, so let's put in. They want a 20-year AM. You're going to get $992.38 a month, and okay, do you know anyone in your world that is all their whole money is stuck in instruments at 0% to 4, somewhere in that range? And you know anyone in your world, doctors in your network, things like that? You used to be a doctor, right? Okay, so do you think they'd be really happy like at 5%? If they could get a really secure position, do you think they would go for ecstatic, right? So this is not real estate investment club for all the people that are chasing yield. This is private money partners that you cultivate from the ground up. So if you can get them comfortable with the asset and how notes work, then someone's going to feel great at 5%. So let's keep them super safe. Let's keep them at 40% of sales price, because we're going to assume that that's the value. Say this is super safe. The property would have to drop more than half before you'd start losing money. Okay? So they put in 64,000. They only need 5%. I wonder how many payments that they need to receive to get their 5%. They're going to need 75 payments or 76 if you want, right?
Okay.
All right. So then so they get this great, and then they want to do it again. So I wonder how much of the note you really sold, just out of curiosity. 76 payments. The face rate on the note was 7. So basically, you sold at a premium. You only sold 60,781 of the note for 64,000, right? Because of the yield spread, right? Because they need less than the face rate on the note. Isn't that awesome?
Do you have like an amortization table you could show that?
Yeah, hold on.
Follow without it.
Okay, so basically, oops, not that part. The 64,000, this is what you would show to the investor.
Okay.
Oops. Nope. I always hate it when I do that. 76 there. Okay. So this over here is their amortization schedule. They start with 64,000. They get 992.38. This is how much principal. They get back a lot of principal, which may or may not be an issue for them, but is a super safe loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is how it amortizes. And the total principal is 64,000. They're going to make 11,000 in interest over that period. And
look at how quickly it pays off. That's just like amazing.
Right. So if they're fine with this, great. You can sell it that way. But some people might say, wait, I'm going to tie up a huge amount of money for only $11,000 return because they're getting so much principal back all the time. Some people won't care. They'll feel great about it because they're mostly really averse to risk. So when they're getting this much principal back each month and they're still making $200-300 a month in interest, that's golden, right? It's really hard to lose money that way, right?
So when it says here payment, that's what I would get as the seller?
No, because you're selling the front, let's say 6+ years of payments to them, right? You're selling, in this example, you're selling off 100% of the payment to them. That's one way to do it.
Okay, and who's getting that $992.38?
If you sell it to.
yeah, your investing partner. They're going to get that whole. See, you're going to get the down payment, and then if you sell off a partial, you're going to put another $64,000 in your pocket, but you don't get any of this monthly payment until they get paid off.
Oh, okay.
A different way to do it would be to sell part of it. And let's just see how that goes. What if you say, I'm going to pull this back up. You go, I'd really like to keep $100 a month of this. I'll collect the payment, or you're usually using a note servicer,
No service, all right.
right? And you can say plus 100. So you're going to keep $100 a month, and we put it in here, put it in there, 5%. Now I wonder, how many payment. Now they're going to need 85 payments. Now let's see what that does. For the same amount of money, I wonder if it increases the amount of interest they would make. Now it's up to 12,000. They put out this same amount of money, and they get back 12,000. I wonder if we stretched it out longer, right? What did we say? That was 240. Okay, first we have to keep them safe. So what's the max number do you think someone would go? Let's see the max number where you would put a super conservative person. 60%? 50%?
50.
Okay, that's a good number. So let's put in 80, 5%. If they went the whole 240 with you, I wonder how much of the note they would need. Look, they'd only need 527, and what was the payment?
$992.
You get 464 a month, and you've got most of your money back, right? So help me figure this out, you guys. So you got 32. So you sold for 160. You got 32,000 out. So basically, you have, what was that note amount? Was it 128? Note amount's 128, but you got 64,000 of it back.
Okay.
So this is how much money you have working out there. So let's put that, let's see what your return is if you do this. What was that number again? Shoot. If they put 4, 5, that's not right. 64,000, 240. No, that is right. Right? So they need this plus 992. Did I do something wrong? Seems like I had different numbers in there before. Oh, that's because 64,000 and it was 992. No, I can't
But
remember.
it
What I
was
did.
992 point something.
Yeah, so if I have to recreate the loan. Sorry. This is what I do all day long. It's just like, do. I'm going to recreate the loan. There's that payment, 992.38. You bring in someone for, oh, I know, because we had the 80,000 in there instead. Okay. Now, they need 527 plus 992.38 is how much you get. So that's what you would get each month, and you only have 64,000 of your own money left out in the deal. So let's calculate your yield. Nah, that's not right. Well, something about that didn't make sense. But anyway, well, because you're getting it, and well, then you can do it again too. If once they pay it down to a certain point, they. Let's say it gets down to where they've paid for a few years. Now they're down to 40. So okay, they're okay going back up to 80 again. So they'll give you another amount of money. So at some point, all of your money's back out. Because if you could get, let's say you could get someone to bring in your 128 at 5%, they would only need that amount of money, right? Are you following me, Colleen?
I don't think she is.
Yeah, so
Yes,
maybe
I
I'll
get
ask
it.
you. Oh, okay. Yeah, so in this case, you're going to you get all your money out, and you're still left over with 147.64, ostensibly for 240 months. There's a way to get another 35,000 out of this property over time because of the yield spread. right? So if you could get someone with, if the underwriting was tight enough, you could, that's how you could sell out a partial of the note, or if they're getting the whole note, 5%, you sell them 207, you have the lat 208, 208 minus 240 is what, 30,
33, 32 and a half.
32, right? So let's just say 32 times 922 point, or 992, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you could
38.
say, yeah, if you keep the remaining payments, you can get another 32,000 doing it that way. Another 35,000 if you could sell them just a piece of the note that they need. And a lot of times, it depends on your investor. A lot of people like those long ones because they make more money while their money's just hanging out there. That it's more interest instead of a super fast return of their principal every month, that it's hard to re-loan. Like if you get 100,000 back at a time, you can re-loan it. If you're getting $1,000 back a month, it can take a while before you have enough to assemble it into another note deal and get it out to work. But also it's not as safe, right? So I don't know. Did that help at all? I mean, but we need to end the call now, but I just want to make sure, is there any piece that
That's a good
you still
start.
wish we,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, yeah, so once you have like real numbers, you can go, okay, let me bring somebody in and they'll give me a portion of, my money out of this deal, but you're still making the yield spread. If you can get someone in at less than the face rate of the note, you're coming out a lot higher than the face rate of the note when all is said and done. Especially if you can take that 80,000 or whatever you can get and invest it, right, in something else that you're making more than 7. That's not that hard to do. So, and I don't know how to calculate all the what if scenarios. There's a lot of moving pieces there. But any other comments before we kind of end up tonight?
Just one last comment I want to
Thank
make,
you.
Don, on this house here. Are you saying that every single house has a bunch of dirt in the front of it, just like this here, and that's common in this area?
Yeah, it's just desert landscaping. That's
The
what they look like.
reason I say that is because when it rains, it's going to be muddy. If I have kids, I would say I surely wouldn't want them playing out in the front yard. I'm just saying that if you could do something to that front to make it maybe a little bit more attractive, maybe that might help the sale as well. I don't know, but if I've got a family, I don't know if I'd want them running around a bunch of sand and a bunch of mud. I don't know. I'm just saying.
It doesn't
Well,
rain very often in the desert, though, so that's really.
you're not a very good desert rat, Ken. I mean, you might be a lot of things, but you're not a desert rat. And it would help if you were a little bit redneck.
If you look at this property, I'm just saying that there's not a lot of appeal in the front because it's all dirt, and I'm just saying that.
Well,
But every property looks like that in the area, so.
For the area, this is a very nice looking property. It has mature landscaping. A lot of them don't,
It
right?
actually is.
No, for this area, it is actually very nice, Ken. Because I used to go camping. I'd drive through Yucca every year. Our family would go camping out in Joshua Tree. And it's all like this. It's just different living for people. And actually, it doesn't rain all that much, does it?
No.
It'd be great if it rained, and then it wouldn't be the desert. But yeah. So actually, just all things considered, and of course, you don't want to put any more money. You're just sick of it. So I really thank you for showing up and using this as an example. And come back on and tell us how it turns out next month. Or wait, I think we might be taking. If we do one, it'll be just a spur of the moment. But usually in December, I take a break from our. We have virtual coffee, but none of our other ones for December, just because we're all so crazy busy during the holidays. But I really appreciate you guys showing up, spending the time, and
Thank you, Don.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Don.
All right, thank you, Colleen, Kioka, and Ken.
Thank you.
Chris and Susan, always appreciate you guys. So, all right, talk later. All right, bye-bye.